And welcome back to RT's live election night coverage. It's just past 7 p.m. and we have polls now closing in Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia, which means over the next few minutes or maybe hours, we'll be getting results from a lot of these states, including some of these swing states. But let's continue on with our campaign coverage here and talk about what the Democrats have been doing. They've been busy trying to paint Mitt Romney as a out-of-touch plutocrat who made his living devouring American businesses and shipping jobs overseas. But they've also been busy with another paint job, that is painting over President Obama's dark secrets. You know, the wars, the surveillance, the secrecy, the indefinite detention, all those things that the establishment left doesn't want to talk about before the election. You might remember Obama beat the guy in 2008 who's saying bomb, bomb, bomb Iran, and then began a semi-covert drone war that bombed Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Libya, who knows where else.
And counter to this covert drone war program, President Obama has promised to run the most transparent administration in history. That's right, he's launched an unprecedented war on whistleblowers, most notably Thomas Drake, the former NSA senior executive, who exposed a massive illegal warrantless domestic surveillance program taking place at the NSA. And as these charts show, some forms of phone surveillance have increased more than 60% under President Obama, and some forms of internet and email surveillance have spiked more than 300% during this administration. On top of that, President Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act into law on New Year's Eve of last year, which included Section 1021, giving him the power to use the military to indefinitely detain American citizens without a trial if they're just suspected of coordinating with terrorists.
You know, when we think of Americans, when we think of undecided voters, we think of Americans in the middle who are trying to figure out whether they support President Obama or Mitt Romney. We rarely think about the voters on the left who are undecided because they really can't stomach voting for a president with a kill list who's spying on everyone.
But they exist, and whether they suck it up and vote for President Obama anyway, like most did in 2008, or whether they vote for a third-party candidate or even stay at home, the fact is that these people and their voting decision could have a major effect on today's election. So, joining us now to talk about President Obama's secrets is National Security Agency whistleblower William Benny. William, welcome. So let's just go ahead and state right now that, first of all, this is not a partisan issue, the surveillance state. It started under President Bush. It was expanded under President Obama. So are there political solutions to this at this point?
Well, there are technical answers, but they don't seem to be politically acceptable to either party, either of the major parties anyway. I'm not sure about the libertarians. I think they'd be more receptive to privacy and less spying on U.S. citizens, because this is all heading towards a fascist totalitarian state.
Well, and I would say one of the reasons why both parties seem to be on board with this is that most Americans aren't really complaining about this. I mean, there are a lot of us. I mean, there are people like you. The people who are complaining about it are talking very loudly about it. But the vast majority of Americans, first off, have no idea that it's going on. And second off, kind of resigned to thinking, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't have anything to hide. What do you want to tell Americans about this that raises their awareness?
You see, the problem is they don't get to determine what is right and wrong in the process. It's all done by the central government, deciding what people do is acceptable and what isn't. So if they think they may have opinions about something that's unacceptable, and in that case, they then become a target without even believing they are. So, but all of the data is being assembled to retroactively examine their entire lives. So it's not a question of them thinking they're safe because they don't believe they're doing anything wrong. It's all in the perception of the administration, not them. It's not the people's perception. It's the administration's perception.
Well, why do you think it's happening? I mean, the justification for this from the administration is, this is counterterrorism efforts. Is that a legitimate explanation?
No, because we could have protected privacy rights.
Do they believe that explanation, do you think? No,
I believe, this originally started even before 9/11. They were soliciting this kind of information from the telecoms. The CEO of Quest testified that in court, or his court documents showed that he was approached in February of 2001 to provide customer data to the government so they could do analysis of calling communities and things like that. So to me, it seemed that that was an indication that the intent was to have a view inside the United States all along and be able to see what people were doing inside this country. So that was their intent from the beginning, in my view.
Wow.
And it's gone beyond spying on cell phones, listening into our conversations. They can actually access more information than ever before. Part of that is our fault as Americans because we do trust technology so much. I'm speaking, of course, about the cloud. Americans store so much of their information in the cloud, and they don't realize how much can be tapped, how long that information is stored for, and what that information in the end can be used for. So can you talk about some of the things that Americans maybe don't know that much about?
Well, I mean, for example, it may come a time when the government's doing, if you're applying for a job with the government, they'll research your Facebook account and all that information that you have in the cloud, so to speak, they will look at, including all the information they've accumulated on you to see if you are acceptable on their terms, not yours. So, I mean, all this information is just power being assembled by the administration, and that's the real danger to our constitutional form of government.
We've also seen, though, as technology has increased, the government has kept up with it to make sure it can still be monitored. But we've also seen organizations like WikiLeaks pop up, and it's become a lot easier for whistleblowers to blow the whistle on this sort of stuff. Where do you kind of see this cat and mouse game going, and who's going to win in the end?
Well, actually, I don't believe...
If you even see it as a cat and mouse game, I guess.
I don't believe it's that easy for whistleblowers to blow the whistle.
But do organizations like WikiLeaks make it easier for them? It's obviously not easy. You're absolutely right there. But, I mean, do you see it as technology progresses and we move into the future that it will be easier?
No, actually, I think it'll be more difficult, especially when the government goes into all these different media and starts pulling in all this data and seeing all of the transactions that people have with one another in those media. They'll be able to pick people out fairly quickly who are doing whistleblowing or leaking information. For example, if they were looking for people who were after the leakers to the New York Times in 2005 on that warrantless wiretapping program, well, all they'd have to do is look at all the calling records of the New York Times and see who was calling them and see who might know about this kind of information and then target them.
Whistleblowing, I know that you were a former whistleblower, and what we do know is that you're saying that, yes, it is easy to blow the whistle, and sure it is, but it's also, the repercussions are unlike anything we've ever seen before. President Obama has cracked down on whistleblowers in a way we've never seen before. So this is one of President Obama's little secrets. I mean, we have Bradley Manning locked up, and the time limit for a speedy trial is far over. We don't know exactly what's going on with Julian Assange, what type of a role that can play in it. So do you really think that whistleblowing is easy, and maybe not as easy, but as accepted?
Absolutely not. After all, they're going to send, I guess, John Kiriakou is just is pleading out.
Nobody goes to jail for the war crimes, but the guy who exposes them
Right,
does.
the fellow who exposed the torture is going to jail, and the people who committed the crimes of torture are not. Yeah. That's Obama's "don't look back" only when we want to keep you quiet.
Well, let's talk about President Obama, since he's the guy who's running for re-election tonight. He's a constitutional lawyer. It seems like he has to understand what's going on is at best a gray area, and that given his experience and his claims to be a progressive, that he would want to stay away from this stuff. What do you think is going on? I mean, this is just a guess, but what do you think is going on? What do you think is motivating these decisions as a man, him?
Well, part of it is now, since I've been in the intelligence community, I know they bamboozle Congress, okay? So, I mean, they do...
Does he not have any control? I mean, maybe he doesn't?
Well, I don't think he understands what they're saying, okay? I think they're using technobabble to convince him of their argument is the correct way. In other words, they're saying things like, if we can't do all this spying, we won't be able to find the bad guys, and the country will be vulnerable, which is absolutely false. Okay, we could have protected all the identities of all U.S. citizens, or anyone in the world for that matter, and still gotten the bad guys.
And let me go ahead and jump in here, Sam. I do want to just kind of wrap this segment up and bring it back to the discussion between President Obama and Mitt Romney. Will any of these problems be fixed under a President Romney administration, or will they be fixed or adjusted under a President Obama second term, or not?
Or is this the security industrial complex we're talking about here?
I'm skeptical of all of this, okay? Because quite frankly, we know what Obama's doing. He's not going to fix this. And Romney has an advisor, General Hayden, who started this surveillance program to begin with. So, I'm not too terribly optimistic that he would change it either. So, in fact, I haven't seen any move by either of the major parties to do anything positive to stop this in Congress either.
So I guess it comes down to the common theme that we're seeing tonight is it's going to take a movement at some point to end this sort of stuff and force political parties to change this stuff. William Binney, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, and we're moving right on down our election list of most ridiculous moments. Here's number 3 and number 2.
The 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they're victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it.
And I will tell you, it's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see.
You need 5.
Oh, 5, okay. So commerce, education, and the
EPA?
EPA, there you go. No, okay.
Let's talk deposition.
Seriously? Is EPA the one you were talking about? Or?
No, sir. No, sir. We were talking about the agencies of government. EPA needs to be rebuilt. There's no doubt about that.
But you can't name the third one?
The third agency of government,
Yeah.
I would do away with the education, the commerce, and let's see. I can't. The third one I can't. Sorry. Oops.
Gotta love Rick Perry. That was the oops heard around the world.
Oops. Okay, real quick, we have some election results coming in tonight. This is exciting. Looks like Mitt Romney has won the first states of the night, Kentucky and Indiana, and President Obama has won Vermont. So that leaves the electoral college count now at 19-3. It's going to be a long night. More of RT's election night coverage coming up after the break.